The New York City Casino War. Welcome again to the World War America podcast. I'm Anderson Thomas. How did a spiritual journey in Ghana turn into the first shots fired in the casino war of New York City? Now, before we go into that totally, let's get into some background information on how to get a casino license in the state of New York. I'm really familiar with this as my research led to an investigation into the Aqueduct Racino license fiasco a decade ago. In the state of New York, you need local and zoning approval before you can even be evaluated by the state's gaming board for a casino license. The gaming board set up a website dedicated to this whole entire procedure. This procedure related to the 3 casino licenses up for grab in New York City. Now, and this is from the website, okay? This is from their website. It put up, before the gaming facility location board may consider a casino application, a local community advisory committee will be created for each application to gauge local support and ultimately issue a finding determining whether there is adequate support for the proposed project. Community advisory committees. For each application submitted, a community advisory committee will be created to review the application. CACs are expected to hold public hearings and will be subject to the New York State Open Meetings Law. The commission may hire a consultant to assist and manage the CAC process. Each CAC will elect a chair at its first meeting, solicit and review public comments, hold public meetings. Ultimately, each CAC must hold a vote with a 2/3 threshold to establish public support approving or disapproving the application. The membership of each community advisory committee depends on the proposed site location, with members being appointed by applicable elected officials. This will be each elected official I'm going to name here gets to pick an individual to represent them on this community advisory committee membership board, which will be in place for each community where an application for a casino license goes in. So the New York State governor gets a selection, the New York City mayor gets a selection, the New York State senator for the area, the assembly member for the area, the borough president in the area, and the city council member. So those are the 6 people who get to pick the individuals who will be on these boards. And remember, you need a 2/3 majority in order for this to go to the state for an overall vote for the license overall. Okay? So now that we know that any license proposed has to be approved by 2/3 of these community boards, and we also know who gets placed is selected by these elected officials, we can now get back to the spiritual journey in Ghana. Back in December of 2021, there was a Politico article titled "Inside the Zany Race for Council Speaker." Here's from the story. The turning point in the race to elect the next city council speaker unfolded nearly 5,000 miles from New York City. During the first weekend in December, Mayor-elect Eric Adams turned what was intended to be a spiritual journey in Ghana into an unexpected political operation when he started to call labor organizations and other power brokers to declare his preference for council member Francisco Moya of Queens. His involvement seemingly contradicted his pledge in September to stay out of the race for speaker, a job intended to serve as a check on the mayor's power. So, why would Mayor Adams stop his spiritual journey he's having 5,000 miles away in order to do something he promised he would never do? What would do that? Why would the mayor do that? Well, I can tell you this. Mr. Moya represents a proposed site for one of these casino licenses. All right. If you go back in the podcast episodes, you'll remember we looked at who the biggest donors to the mayor's race were for Adams. The casino proposal in Mr. Moya's district, that proposal is being put in by a person who put in a huge, over $1 million into the mayor's race to benefit Mayor Adams. All right. So you connect the dots here. I believe this was the first real shot fired to get at one of these casino licenses. The first shot in what I believe will be one of the most epic battles in New York City political history over these 3 casino licenses. And you'll get a front row seat listening to this podcast as we continue to expose the corruption in New York City. We're going to break this down some more tomorrow. Happy hunting. Please share and subscribe. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again for joining World War America podcast. Talk to you tomorrow.